the morning she left and the girl who stayed. I need to start at the beginning, because the beginning is the part that most people never hear, and without it the rest of the story does not make sense. Not the wedding, not the speech, not the moment at the reception that changed everything. None of it means what it means unless you understand where it started. And it started on a Tuesday morning in April when I was 19 years old and my brother Danny was 6, and I came downstairs to make breakfast and found that our mother was gone. No note. Her coat was gone, and her good shoes, and the blue suitcase she kept on top of the wardrobe. The kitchen was exactly as she had left it the night before. One pot in the drying rack, 2 cups on the counter. Danny's cereal bowl from yesterday still by the sink because he had forgotten to rinse it, and I had meant to remind him but had not gotten around to it. Everything was exactly the same, except she was not in it. And something in the quality of the silence told me before I had walked through the whole flat that she was not somewhere else in the building, that she was simply gone. Danny came downstairs at 7:15 looking for his breakfast. He was 6 years old. He was wearing one sock. He asked me where Mum was. My name is Rose. I am 64 years old now. I was 19 then, and I had a part-time job at a printing company and a place at a local college. I had deferred twice already because there was never quite a good enough time to go. I had no savings to speak of, a flat whose rent was 2 weeks behind, a brother who needed to be at school in an hour, and no idea where my mother had gone or when or if she intended to come back. Grandma always said, life does not ask you if you are ready before it hands you the thing that will define you. It just hands it to you and watches what you do next. I made Danny his breakfast. I walked him to school. I called the printing company and asked for more hours. I called the council about emergency housing support. I called my mother's sister, who said she knew nothing and sounded like she might be lying. I did not cry that day, not because I was strong in any meaningful sense, but because there was simply no time, and also because Danny was watching me with the careful attention of a 6-year-old who understands that something has shifted and is trying to read from my face how frightened to be. I decided that Tuesday that he would not be frightened. That was the decision. It was not heroic, it was just the only decision available to someone standing in a kitchen, with one child looking at her and a life that had just changed its shape completely. I made the decision and then I started doing the things the decision required, one after another, for the next 13 years. 13 years. Danny was 19 when he left for university, the one I had worked to pay for, and I was 32, and I had never once left him behind. 13 years, the university, and the woman who came back. I want to tell you what 13 years looked like, briefly, because I think it deserves to be said in concrete terms rather than left as a general impression of sacrifice. I worked 3 jobs during the years when Danny was in primary school, the printing company in the mornings, a shop 2 evenings a week, and a cleaning shift on Saturday mornings that I kept for 4 years because the money was reliable even though the hours were punishing. I never went back to college. There was never a right time, and eventually I stopped thinking of it as something I had deferred and started thinking of it as something that had simply not been for me. I attended every parents' evening. I learned to help with secondary school mathematics by studying it myself the night before so I could be useful the next day. I was there for the school play and the sports day and the argument he had with his best friend at 14. That felt like the end of the world and was resolved within a week. I was there for every ordinary thing because the ordinary things are what childhood is made of, and I was determined that his childhood would be made of them. He was accepted to study engineering at 20. After a gap year he used to work and save. I cried when the letter came. He did not see me cry. I went to the bathroom and cried for 4 minutes and then came out and made tea and told him. I was proud of him in terms that did not begin to cover it. Grandma always said, "The love that asks nothing in return is the most expensive kind there is. It costs you everything. You give it anyway, because the alternative is unthinkable." Our mother returned when Danny was 17. She had been in another city, with another man, and then without him, and then somewhere else. And the details of the intervening 11 years came to us in fragments that neither Danny nor I ever quite assembled into a complete picture. She was changed, and also not changed, in the way people are when enough time has passed that you cannot be certain whether you are seeing a different person or simply a different chapter of the same one. Danny received her with more generosity than I had expected, and, if I am honest, more than I felt. He was 17, and she was his mother, and whatever she had done he wanted a mother, which is a one so fundamental that I could not find it in myself to argue with it. I held back my own feelings about her return because his relationship with her was his to have, and my feelings about it were mine to manage privately. She thanked me once, in a kitchen conversation early in her return, for having looked after Danny. She said it the way you thank someone for watering your plants while you were away. I said it was fine. It was not fine. But it was also 11 years ago, and I had made my peace with a version of it. And the version I had not made peace with was not something I was going to resolve in a kitchen conversation. She settled back into the role of mother with an ease that told me she had not spent the 11 years thinking very hard about what the role had cost someone else to fill. The engagement, the in-laws, and the introduction that changed everything. Danny met Priya 3 years ago. She is warm and clever, and was raised in a family with money, which is not a fault and which I mention only because it is relevant to what happened next. Her father is a property developer. Her mother sits on several charitable boards. They are the kind of family who uses the word background the way other people use the word character, as though the two things are interchangeable, which they are not, but which is a confusion common enough that I had encountered it before and knew how to navigate. The engagement was announced last spring. Danny called me first, before he called anyone else, which mattered to me more than I said. Priya's family organized an engagement dinner that was elegant and well catered, and slightly formal in the way that events organized by people who do things correctly tend to be. I sat across from Priya's father and found him to be a measured, intelligent man who asked good questions and listened to the answers. I liked him. Our mother attended the engagement dinner also. She had been present in Danny's life for 7 years by then and had constructed, in that time, a version of herself as the anchor of the family, the devoted mother, the woman who had always been there. Grandma always said, "A lie told often enough in comfortable company starts to feel like the truth to the person telling it. It is never the truth, but it starts to feel that way." At the engagement dinner, Priya's father asked my mother how long she had been close to Danny. My mother smiled the smile she has, the one that is warm and slightly self-deprecating and very well practiced, and said she had been part of his life since the beginning. She said she had always been devoted to her children. She touched my arm when she said it, lightly, as if including me in the statement. I did not correct her. The engagement dinner was not the place, and Danny was happy, and Priya was happy, and I was not going to put my feelings between them and that happiness on an evening that belonged to them. I filed the moment in the place where I file things I am not ready to address, and I got through the evening and I drove home and I sat with it. The wedding was 6 months later, a Saturday in September, a country house venue, 120 guests. I was invited, of course. Danny had asked me to be there for everything, the rehearsal, the ceremony, the reception. He asked me weeks before the wedding if I would say a few words at the reception, a toast on behalf of the family. I said I would be honored. I meant it. I spent 2 weeks thinking about what I wanted to say, and then, on the day of the wedding, 30 minutes before the ceremony, standing in the entrance hall of the venue with my mother beside me, Priya's father approached us both, and my mother took my hand warmly and introduced me as a close family friend. The ceremony, the silence, and the microphone. I want to be precise about what she said, because the words matter. Priya's father had come over to greet us before taking his place for the ceremony. He extended his hand to me and said, "You must be family." My mother stepped forward slightly, still holding my hand, and said, "Rose is a wonderful friend of the family. She has known Daniel for many years. She is practically part of the furniture. I had raised her son from the age of 6. I had worked 3 jobs so he could eat and attend school and have a childhood. I had given up my own education and my own 20s and a significant portion of my 30s to stand in the place she had vacated, and she introduced me to the father of his bride on his wedding day as practically part of the furniture. Priya's father smiled and said how lovely and moved on to greet other guests. My mother let go of my hand. She did not look at me. Grandma always said, when someone erases you, they are not making a statement about your worth, they are making a statement about their own fear. The erasure is about what they cannot afford people to know. I sat through the ceremony. I sat in the 3rd row because Danny had saved me a seat there, between one of his university friends and a colleague of Priya's I had not met. The ceremony was beautiful in the way that ceremonies are when the 2 people in them are genuinely happy. Danny cried when Priya came down the aisle, which I had expected because he has always felt things fully and has never been embarrassed about it, which is a quality I am proud to have had some hand in. I did not cry. I held myself very still through the whole ceremony, and I thought about the speech I had prepared. The warm and measured speech about watching a boy become a man and wishing him joy in his marriage and welcoming Priya into our small family. And I thought about the introduction in the entrance hall, and somewhere between the vows and the signing of the register I understood that the speech I had prepared was no longer the speech I was going to give. The reception began at 6. The room was full and warm, and the food was excellent, and Danny moved through it with the particular happiness of someone on the best day of his life so far. He found me at my table at 7 and crouched beside my chair and asked if I was ready to give the toast. He was glowing. He was 41 years old, and he was glowing the way he had glowed at 6 when something wonderful happened with his whole face, unself-consciously. I looked at him for a moment. I thought about the Tuesday morning, the 1 sock, the cereal bowl by the sink. I said, "Yes, Danny, I am ready." The toast, the room, and what happened when the truth was said out loud. I stood at the microphone at 7:22. I know the time because I had looked at my watch when Danny handed me the microphone, and I have a precise memory for moments I know I will carry for the rest of my life. The room was full, 120 guests. The wedding party, the staff along the edges. My mother was at a table near the front, to my left, between one of her friends and a cousin of Priya's I had not met. I said, "Good evening." I said I was honored to speak on behalf of the family tonight, and that I had prepared some words that I hoped would do justice to the occasion. Then I said that before I gave those words, there was something I needed to share, because I had spent the day being introduced as a family friend, and I wanted Priya's family in particular to have an accurate picture of who was in the room. The room went very quiet, the kind of quiet that has texture to it. I said, "My name is Rose. I am Daniel's sister. I am not a family friend. I am the person who raised him." I said it simply, without drama, the way you say something that is simply true. And then, because the room was quiet and the microphone was working and I had spent 45 years saying nothing, I kept going. Grandma always said, the truth, spoken at the right moment in a room that is listening, does not need volume. It just needs to be said completely. I told them about the Tuesday morning. I told them about the one sock and the cereal bowl and the blue suitcase that was gone. I told them about the 3 jobs and the college place I deferred until I stopped deferring it and started accepting that it was gone. I told them about the parents' evenings and the mathematics I taught myself the night before so I could help with the homework and the 4 minutes in the bathroom when the university letter came. I told them everything. I took 8 minutes. I know because I had the presence of mind to time it. I did not say my mother's name. I did not point at her. I did not address her directly. I simply told the true story of Danny's childhood to a room of 120 people, most of whom had been told a different story. And I let the 2 stories exist in the same space and allowed everyone present to understand the difference between them. When I was done, I said, I am proud of the man Daniel became. I believe Priya is marrying someone who knows what it means to be loved without condition, because he was loved that way for the first 13 years of his life, and I believe that kind of love leaves a mark that lasts. I wish them both everything good. I raised my glass. I said to Daniel and Priya. The room raised their glasses. Then it went quiet again in a different way, the way rooms go. Quiet when something has shifted and everyone is recalibrating. After the toast, what the room did and what came next. Priya's father found me within 10 minutes of the toast. He was a measured man, as I said, and he approached me with the careful directness of someone who is recalibrating in real time and doing it honestly. He said, I owe you an apology. I did not know. He said it simply and without embellishment. And I appreciated both the apology and its simplicity. I told him there was nothing for him to apologize for. He said he disagreed and that he intended to have a conversation with Danny before the evening was out. Danny found me at 8:15. He had clearly been doing something difficult in the intervening hour because his eyes had the specific quality they get when he has been managing feelings that did not come easily. He sat beside me at my table and he did not speak for a moment. Then he said, Rose, I told him it was all right. He said it was not all right and that he had known it was not all right for a long time and had not said anything and that he was sorry. He said, you raised me. You should have been introduced as my sister. You should have been introduced as my sister at every event for the last 7 years. And I let it not happen because it was easier and I am sorry. Grandma always said, the apology that costs the person something to give is the only kind worth receiving. The ones that cost nothing are just noise. My mother left the reception early. I do not know exactly when because I was not watching for her departure, but she was not there when I looked for her at 9 o'clock. She sent me a message the following day that was long and complicated and contained within it, if you read carefully, both an explanation and an absence of apology that I found more informative than an apology would have been. I read it once and did not reply immediately. I am still considering whether I will reply at all. Priya, whom I had not spoken to privately before that evening, came and sat with me for 20 minutes after Danny and I had talked. She said she was glad I had spoken. She said she wanted to know the real story. She said she hoped that going forward I would be present in their lives as what I actually was, Danny's sister, her sister-in-law, someone who had earned that place in ways that most people never have to. She said this with the direct warmth of someone who means things when she says them, and I believed her completely. My mother was not invited to their first Christmas as a married couple. Danny made that decision himself with Priya, and he called to tell me before he told her. He said he was not cutting her off permanently. He said he needed time to think clearly about what the relationship should look like, and that he could not do that thinking clearly while also managing her version of events. He said, "You were my mother, Rose, you were my actual mother. That deserves to be the truth everyone knows. I am 64 years old. I waited 45 years to hear those words. They were worth every minute of the wait, and also I should not have had to wait for them. And both of those things are true simultaneously. Grandma always said, recognition delayed is still recognition. It does not undo the years without it, but it is not nothing. It is not nothing at all." Danny and Priya had me for Christmas. A small gathering, the two of them, Priya's parents who had, since the wedding, become people I genuinely liked, and me. Priya cooked. Danny made the gravy, which he learned from watching me do it for 13 Christmases when he was a child, and which he makes, I am pleased to say, very well. We sat at their table and I looked at him and I thought about the Tuesday morning and the one sock and 45 years of everything in between. And I thought, there, he is, the person all of that was for. There he is. Thank you for watching. If this story found you today, I hope it reminded you that the people who do the invisible work deserve to be seen. If you are someone's Rose, you deserve recognition. If you know someone's Rose, tell them today. Do not make them wait 45 years for a microphone. Leave a comment below. Share this with anyone who needs it. And if you raised someone who does not yet fully understand what that means, I hope they are on their way to understanding. I hope, for both your sakes, they get there soon.